Welcome back. So I'm back from my bathroom break. So we want to continue from there. So as usual, welcome to another episode of my Python tutorial series. My name is Eliaza and you are watching EE Lego Academy. So I stopped here when I created the amount, that is the parameter beside the amount parameter. So as you are trying to perform a withdrawal, you need to know who is actually withdrawing, whose ID, that is the ID of the person withdrawing, and then the amount trying to be withdrawn. So you want to print out the amount before you withdraw, and after that you want to update. But you also want to create a conditional check to check if the amount you are withdrawing, if it is greater than what is actually contained in the account. So you can come here and say data info if what you are trying to withdraw, if it is bigger than what is contained in that account. You want to come here and say insufficient funds. But if what you are withdrawing, if it is smaller than what is in the account, you want to update your balance. You come here, is data info ID balance is equal to, so I'll just copy that, copy it, so it's equal to this plus amount. And after that you want to print out the balance after withdrawal, and of course you want to also update the JSON file. So we will do that. So what I'm doing is exactly the same code I have actually written before in my past tutorials. The only difference is that I'm just using a graphical user interface to perform everything. So I'm using a graphical user interface. Now the next function I'm trying to create is deposit. So the deposit function. So let me ensure that I don't have a function called deposit actually, because I think I've already done that. I did withdraw, I did deposit, I guessed as much. So I will just say, I'll just call this one, yeah. Alright, let me go up. Let's go up. Let us try to beat from here. So I will call it deposit 1. So deposit 1, and then this I will call it withdraw 1, so that they will not clash. Yeah. So I will just copy this code and change it to balance before deposit. So balance before deposit, instead of typing it all over again, and instead of typing this one all over again too, I will just copy it and I'll change it to plus. So it's already plus, so I'll need to change that to minus. So I'll come here, change it to minus. Now you also need to have the ID of the person trying to withdraw, and then the amount be withdrawn. And after that you want to be able to copy your code and then paste it, and then say balance after you have withdrawn. So after you have deposited, while this one will be after you have withdrawn. So these are the functions to perform the deposit and then the withdraw. So what we want to do for changing email and changing PIN. So now you also want to be passing the save function to ensure that your progress is saved. So I'll come here and say self.save, because if you don't pass this function, it is not going to update your JSON file. So it's very imperative or important to pass that function. So now the next function I want to do is to change PIN. So I'll just call it PIN change. Oh boy. So PIN change data, that's what I will call it, PIN change data. Now this one, from your knowledge of changing a value, that is changing the value of a key in a dictionary, that is what we are going to apply here. So of course you also need to have the person's ID. Then you come here, then you just say self.info, data info rather. So you know that data info is the name of the main dictionary That is, this is my main dictionary, so I have to target that. So data info, and I'm targeting the ID, and I'm targeting the pin. So the pin, I want to change it to a new pin. So you want to specify the new pin here as a parameter, so that when you call this function, you're going to give it an argument. And of course, again, you want to call the save function so that it can update your code. Then after that, you want to create another function that allows you to change email. So you just say email change data. You want to specify the ID, and then you want to specify the new email that you are trying to insert. So also it's going to take the same analogy. Say self dot data info. So the data info. Data info is open a square bracket. You need to have the ID so that it will know the exact person's email you are trying to change. And you say it's equal to the new email, and you come here and you say self dot save. So if any of these don't make sense to you, go back to my previous tutorials. I explicitly explained dictionaries. So all these are just applications of what we have already done so far in this course, because this is an entire Python tutorial series. Well, not entirely, because I will not be teaching about networking. I will not be teaching about data persistence apart from this project. So I will do that when I start my advanced Python tutorial series, but this is just still an introductory series to the Python programming language. So over time I will do a more advanced tutorial. So I would assume that you have finished this first before you transition to that. So everything will come in due time. So I know I've been kind of slow in my tutorials, but I have so many things I'm dealing with, so I have to just balance out my time and ensure that I have ample time for each work I'm doing part time. But rest assured, this my tutorial series is not going to be abandoned. I don't abandon things I start. I just like to delegate time appropriately. But from now henceforth, it's full steam ahead. Alright, so this is my function for changing the email. Now the next one that we want to look at, so I think that's pretty much everything for now, I suppose. So let us now create the function that we're going to use to execute everything. So I'll call it full logic. So full logic. So now in this full logic, we're going to have a while loop. So we're going to create a while loop, obviously, and I'm going to call my function, that is, I'm going to call this my what's it called? Okay, let's not even go there. Let's not go there. So there's no such thing. It's not a while loop. I'm not doing that. So let's stop that. Okay, now I want a situation whereby as I click on this button, we'll start from there. As I click on this button, it allows me to get the information from my JSON file and display it here. That's what I'm trying to do. But before we do that, let's just apply logic to this button such that when I click on this sign up button, it allows me to be able to insert this data into my JSON file and create the JSON file as well. So let's do that. Alright, so my sign up page, let's move there and see. That's 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so we have this was our sign up page. This was our sign up page, and we ran our main loop. We ran the main loop. Alright, so as I click on this my sign up, after I've entered the data, I want to be able to send it to my JSON file. So how do I do that? So I'm going to have a function. I will create another function right after this place, and I'll call it sign up logic. I'll say df sign up what's happening here? Now I have to retrieve all the data from here. First of all, retrieve everything. So once I've retrieved everything from here, I'll need to convert them to be of the particular data type, and I'm going to insert them. I'm also going to call this function, what's the function? This create account function, and I'm going to pass them as argument for these parameters. So that's what I'm going to do. So without further ado, I'll need a situation whereby the data, that is my name entry, my ID entry, my balance entry, my email entry, they are all globally accessible. So they are all globally accessible. So what I'll do, I'll come here and I will make them global. That's what I'll do. I'll make them global. So after my sign up, so global is a keyword that allows us to make variables created in a function accessible to other functions. That's what it do. So whether those functions are in a class or whether they are obeying functionality and procedurality, it's going to allow those functions to access those variables. So I'll just come here and say global, and I will say name entry, ID entry, ID entry, balance entry, email entry, pin entry. So email, not email. So email, come here, email. So ID entry, balance entry, email entry, and then pin entry. So now they are globally accessible. Now I'll come back here to my sign up logic, and then I'm going to retrieve them. So I'll just say name data, what I'll call it. So name data is equal to. Now when you are retrieving data from a widget, you have to use the get function. If you can still remember from my past tutorials, you say get. Now in order for it to be of that data type, you have to convert it to a string. You say string so that you can display it on a Windows screen. But since I'm trying to send it to a JSON file in that format, of course I'll have to say string also. I'll say string, and I'll say name entry dot get. So I've retrieved it and I've assigned it to a variable. Now I'll come here and I'll say ID data, the same thing. So ID is it's a string as well. So I'll say string, because when you are creating dictionaries in a dictionary, the key of those nested dictionaries have to be of the string data type. So I'll come here and say ID entry dot get, and after that I'll come down here and I'll say balance data as well. Say is equal to, now balance is of the float data type, so I'll say float, and I will say balance entry dot get. So I'm converting it to a float, obviously. And the next one is going to be email data. I'll say it has to be of a string data type. I'll say email entry dot get also. Now come here and I'll say pin data is equal to, so pin is an integer, I'll say int. I'll say pin entry dot get. So that is about it. And after that I'll just come here and I'll call that function, which is my create account. I'll say self dot create account, and boom, that's it. So I also need the ID. Okay, I've done that. So I'll just say ID data. For the ID, I'll say name data, and I'll come here and I'll say the next one is balance. Say balance data. The next one is email data. The next one is pin data. Boom. Now after that, now you want to go back to that create account function and do a few module there, a few magic, but I'll explain anyway. So after you have saved the function, you want to come here and say print account created successfully. So let's test it out, shall we? So I haven't yet called any function yet, so I will need to pass it there. So the sign up button, my sign up logic, I'm going to pass it there, and you can see that my self.create account is calling the function, the save function. So my create account is calling the save function, so everything should work perfectly fine. So this is a well-structured banking system. We have not even started anything yet. We haven't even started. Trust me. So I'm going to look for my sign up window screen. So I'll come here. I'll put a comma. I'll come here and I'll say command. I'll say lambda, and I'll say self.sign up logic. Boom, perfect. Let us see if it works. So you want to come here and you want to click on sign up. You want to enter the person's name. I'll say Alex. I'll say, okay, I already have Alex already. Let me just say James. So James, give him an ID of 2. Give me a balance of 284,320.50. And I'll give him an email of James at gmail.com, and I'll give him a pin of 5678. Now let's click on sign up. So you see that it tells us account created successfully. So let us close. So we also want something such that every time you enter in the person's details and you click on sign up, it will clear this field as well. So we have to make sure that this banking system is perfect. It's perfect, so don't worry. We were just getting started, like I said. Now let's check if it has generated the database file. So it wasn't there before. So this is it now, database. And if I move, so anyway, let's do that again. So that it won't be like, oh, I used something that was already there and I did not show you guys that I created it and all that. So we're going to start again from scratch. So the name of the file, as you can see, is database.json. So let me delete this. Delete. So come here, delete, do a refactor. So right click on this, click on delete as well, delete, do a refactor, stuff like that. Now let's try and run that again. Before I run that, let me add what I was telling you about, so that each time I enter in the details and I click on sign up, it's going to clear what was there. So the logic, sign up logic. So after that, I can now come here and I can just say name entry dot delete. So I'm going to start at the 0 index and I'm going to get to tkinter.end. Do that for everything. I just copy this, save myself the stress, copy it a few times. So this one is going to be ID entry. This one is going to be balance. So balance. This one is going to be email. Man, getting tired already. Email, pin. So everything should work fine. So let me try that again. So you can see that there's no database JSON file here. This one is not what we created. If you go up to my code, I gave it a name of database.json, not this. So it's empty, nothing is there initially. So let us proceed. So I'll click here, click on sign up, enter the name. So I'm using the fact that I already have Alex here, so I'm going to enter a different name. I'll say James, and I'll give him a different ID because we already have one. So I'll give him 2. I'll give him a balance of 350,280.30. I'll give him an email of james@gmail.com. Now come here and I'll give him a pin of 5678. When I click on sign up, boom, you see it clears the entry field and then it tells me successfully created. Now let's close it. One thing about JSON is that before it reflects, you have to close your program. So you can see that it has appeared now. It has appeared right now. And we entered James, we gave him some amount in his as his balance, we gave him an email, we gave him a pin. So let's check the JSON file and let's see if that is what we have. So you see that if I move towards this side, you see that I get a new ID of 2 James and the balance we just entered and then his email address. So you can see that it is clearly working. So it is working. It's working. So let's proceed. Now the next thing I want to do is to be able to withdraw from the account. Now this is the function I'm working with. I'll have to also create the withdraw logic as well. Now in order to do that, I will need to, but let us scratch that. Let's scratch that. Let us say now we're trying to log into the account. Let's say we're trying to log into the account now. So when I click on this login button, I will need to create a logic for that. So right under the login function for the Windows screen, I'll come here and say login logic. So let's create the logic for that. Now in order to create the logic for that, we will need to ensure that that person is in existence in the database. That's just what we're trying to ensure. We're trying to ensure that whatever it is we enter here, we get it from my database, that is the JSON file. We're trying to ensure that it is actually in the JSON file. That's what we're trying to ensure. So you want to come here and then you want to make it globally accessible. Again, I'm going to make this name entry globally accessible and then the ID entry globally accessible. So I'll come here and say global. I've already explained what global is. I'll say name entry and I'll say ID entry. So this project I'm doing, I haven't done it before at all. I'm doing it off the top of my head from scratch, as you guys are a witness. So this is how you build mastery. You make mistakes, you get better, you persist, make mistakes, get better. It's all about just your willpower here. We're talking about just your willpower, yeah, and persistence, consistency. And you get to where you are trying to get to. Anyway, enough of that. So now I want to be able to retrieve that data, obviously, and I want to use it as placeholders to be able to retrieve information from that my database. All right, so I'll come here and I will say name data again, because it's not globally accessible. So this particular name data is not. Even the previous one we did, the one we just worked with, the logic name data, it is relative to this function. I did not make it globally accessible. So this other name data I'm using obviously cannot be accessed. So now I'm trying to retrieve value from my name, that is retrieve this value that I enter in my entry widget name. So I'll convert it to be of the string data type. I'll say name entry dot get, trying to retrieve data from there. Now I'll come here and I'll say ID data, and I'll say, so the ID is an integer. No, it's not, it's a string. I'll say str, and I'll say ID entry. So I have to ensure that it is not the same. So we are entering deep waters here, because it can make mistake and think that the ID I'm entering is this and the entry I'm entering is this. Oh boy, so we are in some serious trouble here. We have to quickly rectify that. So this was the very first name entry I entered, and very first ID entry I entered. Now I will change everything here to name entry 1, ID entry 1, balance entry 1, and email entry 1, and pin entry 1. Then I will come down here and I will also change everything as well to be that 1, 1, 1, 1. Or rather, let me just save myself the stress and just perform a multi add. Click on this, click on this, click on this, click on this, look for wherever I had it again, click on this, click on this, click on this, click, 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 1, boom, that's it. So that's all. So that is all, I suppose. But let us confirm that we're not, entering into deep waters again. Let's ensure. So I have some name data here. Thank God it's not globally accessible. Thank God it's not globally accessible. I'll just leave it there. But it will need to be. It will need to be at some point. Just thought about it, so I'll come here and I'll just give it 1, add 1 there to it, amount 1, 1. So at some point it's going to, oh boy, I'm in so much trouble. My problem there. So when you have a large project like this, you are bound to make mistakes and errors, so just welcome it as a programmer. Alright, so the next thing we're looking at, login logic. Alright, so the login logic. So these were the very first entry, name entry and ID entry I entered. So I'll just leave them like that. So after I've retrieved them, I want to now pass them as values. So if you look at my login function, so okay, I don't have a login function. Sorry about that. I do not have a login function. But I'm trying to display data somewhere. So now this was my login screen. Then after the login logic, it was supposed to display data on, where's this place now, on the account info. So the account info, I'm supposed to retrieve these values. Now it's a very good thing I made them globally accessible. I changed their name so that I can make them globally accessible. So now in order for me to do that, I'll come here and I will say global, and I will say name data 1, account amount 1. So name data 1, amount 1, so that I can be able to use them there, so that I can be able to display data on them. So I'll go back to where I was writing my code. Now as I enter the value, I'm trying to display data on that my window screen. So I'm trying to display data on my window screen. So let's see how we can do that. So now my name data, I'll just say name data 1.config. I'm trying to show some text. I'll say text is equal to, now what am I going to do here? I'll use an f string open a curly bracket, and I'm going to call that my data info, and I'm going to get the value. So as I retrieve the name data, if those names, if they are actually in the database, it's going to take those values and display them on my window screen. It's going to display them on my window screen, but I'm trying to get something here. So if they are not there, anyway, so if they are not there, are going to have an error. We're going to have an error. But let us try and see how we can shape this logic properly so that it can be able to work out for us. Anyway, I'll open a square bracket and I'll just say ID data. ID data. So if it is there, it's going to display my data for me. ID data, and then I'm going to write the person's name. So if I check my dictionary, the dictionary is name with a capital letter N, so that's what I will use. I'll just say name. So it turns out that we do not need this name data after all, because if you look at it very well, after I've targeted the ID and I've targeted the key, it's going to just display that person's information there. So it's going to display the person's information there, and there was no need for me to have made this globally accessible since I'm only making use of the ID. So it turns out that that's all I just needed, just the ID alone. So this will allow me to display the person's information and also to display the person's balance. So I'll come here and I'll say amount1.config, so that when I click on that button, it transfers the data and displays it on those label widgets. So config means that even though I already had something there, some text on the widget initially before, as you can see, I had Alex, I had 15023. It doesn't matter. As soon as I click on that button, sign up, it will override what was there with the original data in that database. And this is how I'm going to perform that operation. So I'll come here and say text again. I'm going to use an F string. If the F string doesn't work, we are going to use the other method to stop disturbing my computer. Say self.data.info, open a square bracket, say ID data, then come here, say balance. So balance. Boom. So after that, you want to now pass this function to the sign up button. So this is the sign up button, sign up page rather. What am I passing it to now? Okay, so this one, okay, this is my login page anyway. So I will pass it to the login button. My bad. So the login button, okay. So what I'm going to do actually is that instead of me doing all this, I'm going to write this logic in this function that I'm trying to call the account info. So as I click on the login button, to just display the same window screen, and instead of what I'm doing, it's going to, there's no need for this function, so I'll explain that. So there's no need for this, but let me just leave it there for now. Scroll down to the account info. Now at the bottom, so that it will use those values to replace what is here, the name data and all that, I'll just come here and say name data one.config, then I'll say text. Let me just copy it from there instead of wasting time. Also, good time. I don't like wasting time on projects, so I hate wasting time on projects. Let's get straight to the point. Everything will be hit with a bullseye. Okay, so now instead of me using ID data, I will just say, okay, Okay, so now this is where everything starts to make sense. So as I enter the ID in this my login screen, where's the login screen? So as I enter my data, delete all this here. I'm going to come here, enter the ID. So as I enter the ID, I need to make sure that this is globally accessible. So ID entry. So ID entry, as I enter the ID, is going to use that ID as some value here. So I'll just come down here and I will say ID data. I don't know why I deleted it. So ID data is equal to string ID entry dot get. That's it. So everything should work out. So initially it might display the person's name, this name Alex, and the false balance, but after it has finished loading, it will now use the actual original data of that person to override what was here. So to use it to override what was here. So we don't even need the person's name, provided the ID is correct. So I don't know, I'll need to correct the logic, but there's no time. Let's just test our code. So let's test our code. So click on run, click on the name. So let me first check my, what's it called, my database. So I want to use Alex and 1 to sign in. I'll click here, say Alex, come here, click on 1, click on login. So you see that the actual amount is what we see there, Alex, and then 2743860.5. But if you check the logic, you will discover that is the original code. You will see that I gave it a false balance, which was not supposed to be there. So 15023, you see, it's false, but it's replacing it with the original balance. So boom, we have it. Now let us proceed to the next part, whereby when I click on deposit, this button, it allows me to update the amount in the account, and at the same time it reflects here also. So let's quickly do that, because the logic, in short, it's also making me a bit kind of tipsy, because I'm doing, like I said, this is the first time I'm doing something like this. I haven't done it before. Okay, so we're doing, this is a live project, believe me or not. So for the deposit, I want to create a function called deposit logic. Now for the deposit logic, I'll need the amount I'm entering, obviously. So I'll need the amount that I'm trying to enter, and it has to be a float. I'll have to make it global so that another function can have access to it. So I'll say global. So global, and I'll say AMT entry. Now it's very we have to be very careful here, because if you can remember, I have withdraw and I have deposit, and I think they almost have the same name. I think they have the same name, in short. They have the same name. So what I'll do, I'll leave this one at amount entry. Then for the withdrawal, I'll change it to amount entry 1, so that there wouldn't be any clash, because clashes are very difficult to debug from my experience. Don't like it, makes you seem like you don't know what you are doing. Okay, so I'll just come here and say amount data equal to, I'll obviously make it a float data type, and I'm going to retrieve that entry widget from my deposit screen. So I'll say amount entry dot get, and after that I'm going to call that function. So I'll call the function in order to perform the update. I'll perform the update, but it needs to know who am I actually trying to update for. So of course it will need an ID, so don't forget that ID that I made globally accessible just now. This ID, this ID entry, as I entered it there, it has to know that it's that same person whose ID you are trying to retrieve. That's the person's amount you are trying to deposit for. So let me scroll back to ensure that everything is in sync, because man, so ID entry. So I'll come here and I'll call the deposit function. I'll say self.deposit. So I don't know if it's deposit 1 or if it's deposit, or if it's just ordinary deposit. So let us check it out. Okay, deposit 1. So self.deposit1, that is the name. So deposit 1, and I have to pass the ID. So I also need to retrieve it. I'll say ID data is equal to int dot ID entry dot get. So I'll just come here. It's that same ID, obviously. It's ID data and then the amount data. Now, as I've done that, I also want it to reflect on this window screen that, oh, I have deposited into the account, and it can now replace it with the newly updated value. How do I do that? So now this thing that I did, that I said .config, that is exactly what I'm going to do. So I will need to make it globally accessible, so that it's already globally accessible. I'll say name data1.config, just the exact same thing, so that it will display the new balance there. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll copy this and I'll go and paste it there, so that it will just show me that that's the new value, that it has been updated. Simple and short. So let us attempt to run the code again. Let's see if we are on track. So I've not passed the function yet to the deposit button. So this is my deposit button. So I'll just come here and I'll pass the deposit function there. I'll say command is equal to lambda, and I'll say self dot deposit logic. Let's confirm. So this looks like a solid program, or rather it's becoming a solid program. We're not done. I've not even started. So I'll just come here and say Alex ID 1 login. So let's just try to deposit. I'll come here, I'll say deposit, move it aside. Let's say I'm trying to add maybe 50,200, and I click on deposit. Okay, so we have an error somewhere. So balance before withdrawal. So it's telling me I have an error. Right, so let's go and confirm why we had an error. Let's confirm why. So error, we'll check it out now. Rectify it. So deposit logic. Okay. So what is the problem? Okay, so having an error. I wonder why that is. Let me see the error again. So it says command logic. It's the balance before, balance after. So the deposit ID amount. Okay. So float data type. What's the problem? Oh. That's the problem. So I gave it an integer. It's supposed to be data type. Let's try it again. Ooh, man. Let's try it again. Oh, so Alex, give it an ID of 1. Login, account, move it aside, deposit.
Okay, I will simply
now just come here and say 50,300 deposit. You see that it has increased, so it increased just now. So I'll do that again in case you do not see it. I'll just say 20,350 rather. See that it has increased again. It has increased again. So, and you can see it's also showing us on the screen balance before deposit, blah blah, balance after deposit. And when you look at your JSON file, you see that it's increasing. It has increased rather. So let me do one more again. So 10,550. If I click on deposit, you see that the JSON file also increases. So that's how it works. And you want to also add something such that when you, after you have entered the amount, it will also clear the screen for you. So let's do that. Let's quickly add that. Let's make it a professional banking system. So this is data persistence. It remains on your system even after you are done. It does not go anywhere. So after it has displayed the value for us, where was that just now? So I'll just come here and the entry widget, the amount.entry where I entered, I will just, so it's already global. I'll just come here and say amount entry dot delete and pass 0 ticketer 10. Okay, so let us not waste time. I want to get this thing over with. So now the next thing I want to do is my withdraw logic. So withdraw logic is going to be the same thing. I'll just copy the code, not wasting time at all. So withdraw logic, copy it, come here under the withdraw, create a function called withdraw logic. So withdraw logic and then paste. So after that, since, so obviously the entry widget in my withdraw logic is entry 1, so I'll just come here and change it to entry 1, and I'll change this one to entry 1. Everything else remains the same. Yeah, amount entry. So the ID is not entry 1, it's just entry. This one is the one that is entry 1. So I've not made it globally accessible, that's why. So I'll come here and say global amount entry 1. Boom, and the error disappears. Now I'm going to call the withdraw function. So not the deposit, you just say withdraw 1. That's it. So withdraw 1, and it's the same thing as well. It's going to be the same thing. So let us test it out. So, but before that, you want to pass it to the button. So you come here, put a comma, and then you can now say command to go to lambda, and then you say self dot withdraw logic. So withdraw logic, and that's it. That's pretty much everything. You click on your code, run your program, log in, Alex. You can use the other person. I'm just using Alex so that we can be fast. Or let me just use the other person so that you will not see, oh, this guy's code does not work, blah blah blah. So I'll just come here, change it to James and 2. So James, if I'm correct, 2. And you see login. Okay, see it also logs in with the correct amount. So let's try to withdraw. Now it knows that it is that person I'm trying to withdraw from. It knows. Why? Because of the ID. I already explained it. So let me try to withdraw like 40,500. See that boom, it withdraws and it clears the screen. And it shows me the balance before withdrawal and the balance after withdrawal. Now what's it going to, when we look at the message box, we're going to still come back to this project and still tinker around with it. I'm going to still add a few things to it for it to make more sense. So it's already a beast already on its own, but just to, you know, overkill, to make it an overkill. Alright, so let's now try to create a function that allows us to change pin, or rather you want to create a function that you are going to pass to the button of your change pin and change email. So for my change email, here's my change pin. So I'll do for change pin first. So change pin, I'll just come here and say AF change pin logic. Right? So when I enter the new pin, I'll just say pin entry, not amount entry. So pin entry 2, because I think I already have pin entry 1, so I'm not taking any chances. Pin entry 2. So I also make it globally accessible so that I can use it in another function. Say global pin entry 2. So I'll come here and I'll retrieve the value. I'll say pin data is equal to, it has to be an integer, of course. I'll come here and I'll say pin entry 2 dot get. So I will retrieve the value from there, and of course I will still need the ID data. So I've already made it globally accessible already from my login page. So I already showed you up, you can't keep on repeating things, and it's of the string data type. And I'll just say, so the name was ID entry, so dot get. So ID, let's just go and confirm it. So my login screen, where is it? Where are you? So ID entry, so it's globally accessible, so that it will know that it's that person whose pin I'm trying to change. Now I'll come here and I'll call the pin. I'll just say change pin. I have so many functions. So let me go and see the one that we're trying to call specifically. So pin change data, that's what I'm trying to call. It needs the ID and the pin. So pin change data. So I'll come here and I'll say pin change data, and I'll say ID data, and I'll say pin data. Boom. So that's it basically. Now pass the function to this my button. So I'll just call it pin change. Let me just Ctrl Z and perform a multi edit. I'll call it pin change. Okay, so I'll come here and I'll pass the function to it. So comma, let me ensure my video is still recording. Okay, put a comma, come here, and I'll say change pin. Oh, what am I doing? My mistake, my bad. Say command using my lambda so that I can give it parenthesis. Say self dot change pin logic. That's it. So let us try to confirm that. So we will need the database to be keeping track, or to keep track of what we are trying to do. So let me run the code, switch it here. So I want to change the pin of Alex from 1, 2, 3, 4 to another pin. So I'll just come here, I'll say Alex, log in with his ID 1. Now account information, I'll say I want to change your pin to another pin. I want to give him 0000 zeros. So you didn't give him 10 actually. So 10. So Python does not allow us to repeat zeros. So I'll just use 1111. So we're supposed to give it an update to tell us if we were successful in changing pin. So I'll say pin change. So let's check it out. If it has changed it to 1111. So I can just go back to my code and pass a few updates there. Pass a few updates. So to the pin, where was that? Scroll up. to the pin change. Let's see how it looks like. And then alright, so after the save, you can just come here and say print pin changed successfully. The pin changed successfully. And you also want to do this as well for your email. So email changed successfully as well. So email changed successfully. Now after that, after you click on pin, when you change your pin, you want it to clear the screen as well. You don't want it to just be there like that. So I've already made it global, so I'll just come here after the change. I'll just say pin entry 2, pin entry 2 dot delete 0 header dot end. Alright, so now the last but not the least is changing the email. So it's just pretty much almost the same thing. Come down here to the email, and then you see df change email logic. So save yourself the stress. It's pretty much the same code. I'll just make this one globally accessible. I'll come here first of all and change the name to email entry 2. Now come here and give a global variable, global email entry 2. And after that, I'll just copy this code. What's the word now? So the change pin logic, I'll copy it, save myself the stress, paste it, and then I will just say email. So email data, email. So now for this one, for the code for changing email change data, so that's the name. So email change, I'll just say email change data. I'll just change it to email. And that is it. So we're done with the project. Let me just ensure that everything is done right. So email entry 2. So let us run our program. And let us, oh sorry, we're not done. I want to pass it to the function. Before that, I want to change the name to be change email. And after that, I'll come here and after my font, put a comma, enter, command is equal to lambda, and then I will just say self dot email change data. That's it. Email change logic rather. What? So email change. What am I saying? Change email logic. Change email logic. And that will be everything. So let us run our code. Let us ensure that we are on track and there's no problem. So I want to switch to the database.json file so that we can see it in action. So I'll just add a 1 or a 12 to Alex's email address. I'll say Alex 1 login account info change email, and then I'll just say alex12@gmail.com. I'll say change email. Okay, so we have an error. So I've not, okay, so I made a mistake again. I gave it an integer. So we were this close to finishing our project only for this error to pop up. But not to worry, something that is like child's play. So just scroll there. So I made it an integer. I'm supposed to make it a string. So let us run the project one more time. So I'll just come here, click on Alex. So I want to ensure that I'm actually in the database.json file so that you will see it update in real time. 1 login account info, change email, alex12 at gmail.com. If I click on change email, it clears it, and then if I click here, you see that it adds 12 to my Alex. Boom. So let me just create an account, one more account, to ensure that we are done with everything. So I want to create a new person. I'll call him Brian, give him an ID of 3, give him a balance of 287,150, give him an email of Brian at gmail.com, give him a pin of 9870, sign up. So we get account successfully created. If you click here, you should see that his account has updated in real time. So you see that it has added a new person, Brian, a balance of 287,150. So with that being said, now you discover that the JSON file is on our system permanently. You can keep on creating and updating the JSON file over and over again. So that is an upgrade of our banking system which we created in our previous tutorial. As you can see, we started the project from start to finish, minimal errors. That is how you get better as a programmer. So if you have been enjoying my video so far, or if you have enjoyed this video so far, please hit the like button. If you feel like the information on this my video might be of importance to someone else, please share. And if you want me to keep creating more content like this, please hit that subscribe button. Now, without further ado, till we meet again, have a very great day, or it's goodbye for now. Goodbye.